Hi, everybody. My name is Erasmo Casiano. I go by Raz for short. It's actually my first industry nickname, which it could have been a lot worse. I got a lot of interesting nicknames growing up for sure with having a name like Erasmo. I'm from originally born in Arlington, Texas, raised in Dallas proper. Went to Johnson& and Wales University, graduated back in '06, '07. I did the Providence campus, and then I moved over to Denver. Went back to work in Dallas, and then moved back to Denver because I ended up here kind of like with a little bit of luck, and because I ran out of gas. Is pretty much how the story goes, actually. But I started pretty early in my in the industry, working at a Brahms ice cream in Dallas, which is like an ice cream and burger shop. From there, worked at Denny's. I was 14, 15 years old, 16. Worked at my first like shenanigans, known as Outback Steakhouse. Worked there, which was fun, obviously, as a 17-year-old, teenager making, you know, 75 to $100 on a serving night. But I worked there as I kind of like worked all the positions there. I said at that point I knew I kind of wanted to be in the industry, didn't know what yet. I had a feeling I wanted to be a chef, and so I worked as a server, prep cook, dishwasher, busser, host, um, and just kind of went back and forth between all the roles as needed. It was a great learning experience, and I worked at my first more upscale dining restaurant at 18, right before I left for college, or Johnson Wales, known as Foray, I think, which is now closed down. But really nice, upscale Italian, kind of like Nouveau Italian at the time. Great, great restaurant. And that's when I knew I was gonna be, or I wanted to become a chef. So I kind of like got under the chef's wing, and then went to college. Told me to come back in between, and you know, I kind of got right into the industry. Just started grinding away. Like even when I was at Brahms Ice Cream or even Denny's, I would go to work the late night shift at Denny's, wake up, go to school, do my homework, go back to Denny's. Like I was always in grind mode. I don't know why, but growing up, my parents just worked hard, and I figured that was kind of like what I needed to do in life. Not to say that I wasn't like a punk kid, thinking he was too good for himself, but um, once I got out of our first year in college, I kind of thought I was a hot shot. So went back to work at the Dallas restaurant known as Foray, and that's where like had my first like rude awakening of what it meant to be a team player, a line cook, a dishwasher, a busboy, like all the above. There were set expectations, and the first few months I was just failing the chef, but to the point where I was like crying, like maybe I shouldn't be doing this type of thing. But I do remember one specific time where I was prep cook. I mean, I don't know, maybe like three months worth. And I'm like, Chef, I'm ready to get on the line. He's like, Oh, you think you're ready to get on the line, are you? So he like throws me an apron because they were different aprons up front. And he's like, Well, go on and jump on the grill and the pizza. And I'm like, Oh, okay. So I jump on there, and I just get my butt kicked. Getting weeded with all the tickets, and I get really really defeated to the point where he's like, all right, get off the line. So the chef there was Jeff Machete, and very scary name, but it's literally how it was spelled, Moschetti. um, and he just kind of taught me like how to set standards, or how to follow the standards. So he did break me down to build me back up. So that was a really good learning experience for me right before I went up to my second year of culinary school. I kind of got tired of the Providence vibe, so I wanted to try out Denver. And I came out to the Denver campus and just fell in love with the mountains. And well, the mountains, I mean, they just kind of called to me. Go fishing over the weekends and things like that. But I took it a lot more seriously. I focused in on the business side of things, and I graduated, with honors and all that fun stuff. And again, I got a little ahead of myself and hot shot chef. Moved back to Dallas, immediately got a sous chef job at Victory Tavern, Dallas, and just kind of started going through the motions of a sous chef. I took pride in my work, and we did the best we could, and we were just going every day. And then I actually got, what do you call it when you pick somebody up, from you poached. I got poached to another restaurant, and that's where I got like way ahead of myself. But we opened up the Screen Door of Dallas, which is my first fine dining restaurant. Where nice, 7 course tasting menus, 9 course tasting menus. It was in a brand new building. It was a very gorgeous spot. Cooked for a lot of big high end names, etc. And next thing you know, I mean, I put my heart and soul into it. I really did. But next thing you know, I got fired. Lots of opening expenses that kind of accumulated, and I was the expendable one, and that's where I took quite the dive, personally and professionally. I started drinking quite a bit, and there wasn't a day or a night that went by that I wasn't intoxicated. So I jumped around from restaurant to restaurant from there, just kind of drinking the my life away. And there was at one point where like I had gotten a really great job offer. And I'm like, all right, we're gonna clean this stuff up. We go out to celebrate. I get pulled over. DWI in Texas, a pretty big misdemeanor, I guess, or maybe it's not a misdemeanor. I don't know, but it's a little bit more serious than they take DUIs here in Colorado. But it took me a good few years to get over, to pay all that stuff off and to go through all the classes that I had to do. But there was one point that I had left. It was leaving the drunk tank essentially, and I went to. I showered. I applied for a job. I got the job. I started next week. 2 weeks later, I got let go again, and that was my rock bottom. I was let go. I went in at 5 a.m. in the morning. I was my first exec job at this point. I went in at 5 in the morning. I was home by 7:30, and this is back in Dallas, by the way. I packed all my things and just left. Anything that would fit in the SUV, I just packed everything that was important to me, and I left. I got onto uh, 287 and just shot up. I was actually thinking about heading to Washington because I had a friend there, but I mean, I left my whatever money that I had with my parents, and I just kind of like started over. So I sold some stuff out of the back of the SUV, to get the next tank of gas. Ironically enough, a shredder was sold, but not my guitar, which was which was interesting. A paper shredder. Somebody bought that, which bought myself a tank of gas. And as soon as I got to the Colorado border, I remember this vividly because, first off, when I was driving, I wasn't sure where I was headed. I just knew that, I wanted to drive through Colorado, see if there was anybody here, try out Washington, a new state that I haven't been in, and it was like stormy, like hardcore stormy, crossing the Panhandle, the Oklahoma Panhandle into Colorado, and the skies just opened up, and you could see, the sunshine, and just it was beautiful, honestly. And I kind of like had to pull over and just take a deep breath and be like, okay, I'm somewhere now. I was nowhere before. Uh, so I just kind of took a moment to reflect what I was seeing. Kind of the skies opening up as more of a sign, like, hey, you might be home here. So I make it to Lyman. I sell a few DVDs and another tank of gas worth. Make it to Denver. Actually, I make it to Aurora. There's a Taco Bell. Starving. Pull over to a Taco Bell. I get myself I don't know, a cheeserito or whatever I was into at that point. And I gotten a phone call. Like as I was just parking, I have like a low tank of gas at this point. I get a phone call from a gentleman named Chuck Nealon, who was one of the managers of the restaurants that I was working at before I had gotten poached. He's like, "Hey, what are you up to? You still at that restaurant?" I said, "Actually, no, I haven't been there for a few months." He's like, "Well, where are you?" I said, I'm right outside of Denver." And he's like, "Are you visiting, or are you staying there?" I said, I'm not sure." He's like, "Well, if you're looking for a job, head down to Park Meadows." I go, "Okay." So I drove down to Park Meadows. and immediately got a sous chef job there the same day that I had arrived. So I took that as another sign, like, okay, someone called me to ask me where I was. I had gotten no phone calls at this point. Nobody knew that I'd left. And to get this call right out of the blue, uh, I kind of took it as a sign. So, and I'm not like, you know, what do you call it? People that see things or future things or whatever like that. I'm not about all of that, but I can't ignore all these coincidences either. So I make it there. I get the job. I mean, again, I have zero money. I'm still like recovering from all, the drunk tank stuff and the DWI. I'm just kind of like running away from it, but I knew I was going to handle it. And so I get the job. They give me a jacket. Uh, I have nowhere to live, so I'm sleeping in my SUV. I wanted to save up enough money for the first, couple weeks, so I just kind of like sleeping in the SUV, kind of getting in a little early, taking a little little showers in the bathroom or in the mop sink, just trying to like, wash off any stink off there. And I think the general manager had noticed because he's like, "Hey, do you have a place to stay?" And I was so embarrassed at that point to say like, the fact that he had even noticed. Um, I said, I don't remember what I said exactly. It wasn't no or yes or anything like that. He just said, "Why don't you stay in my apartment? I don't have a couch or anything. I do have a cot you could sleep on. And just save up until you got it." I mean, I don't have much, he said, but here it is. So that was a first another sign. Someone just knew that I didn't have a home. And at that point, I was like really tired of sleeping in my car. So that cot felt like clouds at that point. So I was sleeping on a cot for a few weeks. There was a couple nights where he couldn't hear. I didn't have a key, and he couldn't hear me knocking. So I'd sleep in the car again. But um, that went on for about a month or two until I just gotten like I knew he needed his space, and he had a date over. I was like, I'm not gonna bother this man. So I wanted to sleep in the SUV, and this was another moment that hit me really really hard. Uh, in terms of people are always there to help you. I didn't really see it as that because there's a lot of woe is me sometimes when you're in a certain situation. But I was sleeping in the SUV. I was so tired and uncomfortable. I just pulled up to a Motel 6. I didn't have enough money. Um, but I walk up to the clerk and I say, "Hey, is there anywhere I could stay here? I got my SUV's out here. You take a pick of the litter, take the guitar. I don't care. I just want a good night's sleep on an actual bed." And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't do anything for you." And then he like does this with his head, like to go out the side door. So I'm like, okay. So I just like walk out the side door, and he was like, "Here." He gives me a key card and says, "Man checked out early. FYI, he's a smoker, but the room's not clean, but it's available for you." And just asking, you know, yeah, I laid down there and I'm just like, okay, now at this point, I'm like, I owe everybody something. And I think it was at that point that in my professional life, I wanted to make sure that I gave some stuff back. And whether that mean in the form of helping somebody, reaching out, offering a hand, offering a shoulder, offering an ear. I do try to live by those three people's like actions, and I think it's important. And it's not to say that it was easy from then. From then, like I saved up a little money, moved into with a roommate who actually had a couch, still didn't have a bed, moved to a job downtown at Crew downtown, ended up being there for like 3 to 4 years, became the general manager. There's a lot of growth there, and it wasn't easy. Uh, but I, I can always look back and say, okay, those three people helped me out to start my life over again. And just kind of not keeping your head down, keeping your head up. I know there's a lot of people say like, keep your head down, just do the work, and everything it'll become fruitful for you. Well, since those moments, I kept my head down. And next thing you know, I have 4 back surgeries just through the grueling work of the work on the line as an exec chef. And all of them were paid for out of pocket, except for the last one, thanks to my wife's health insurance. But you know, we 3 of those surgery, the first surgery, that I had, or the first like injury that I had, and everyone's like, "Oh, what'd you do? Did you go snowboarding?" I'm like, "No, I'm more of a hiker. Nothing happened." I wanted to say I wrestled a bear, but that never happened. It's just the doctors were saying it looks like it looks like wear and tear, like you have a wrestler's back. And they're like, "Is it just from standing?" And I'm sure like all chefs, whenever they're like, "Oh, my back hurts," they hear the same thing. "Oh, it must be from standing a lot." Like, yes, it's from standing and lifting and twisting and turning and burning. There's a lot more than just standing there making a dish. When we get produce in, it comes in 50 to 100 pound bags, things like that. But I think people have a misunderstanding of what it means to be an active cook, a line cook, and a chef. But I remember the first thing that came out of one of the managers, when I told him that I'd injured myself. I was prepping for a Valentine's Day weekend, and we had just run out of every product you could think of. So I stayed late and made sure that the next day we were going to be ready for Valentine's Day brunch with all the desserts and things like that. So I stayed about till like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, made just all the foods that and left them cooling. And that morning I could not walk. I couldn't stand up, couldn't roll out of bed, couldn't do anything. They had to like bring out the paramedics, take me to the hospital. But when I called in, the first thing is like, I was like, "Hey, I think I really injured myself here. My back is just like gone. I cannot do anything. So do you want to come in later?" No, like I'm like physically can't do this. So you're not coming in? That is correct. That's why I'm calling you so early, you know. But I have all this stuff prepped for you, and that's what I was worried about was the service. All right, and we're always worried about service. We're hospitality. We want to make sure everybody's ready for the next day. But we want to make sure everyone's having a great time. But that hospitality rarely, seldom is shown from front to back. And I don't mean front of house, back of the house. I mean just as far as the workers versus the guests. And I don't know if that's instilled incorrectly within our industry, but I think with the small changes that we make in ourselves to treat other people with dignity and respect, and asking, "Hey, how are you?" First and foremost, don't worry about tonight's service; we'll handle it. But how are you feeling? Instead, I felt guilty. Okay, I felt guilty that I had injured myself, and it's just not cool. Like at that point, I just felt like down in the dumps. Anyway, month later, try the PT, nothing happens. I do the surgery, couldn't go back to work. It was just a mess. 4 months later, jump right into another job, another executive sous chef job at this point, and then again, uh, grind, 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 boom, back injury again. It was 1 year later to the day, I think it was, that I injured myself the following year, February 13th. uh, and that one was a little bit different. They were like, "Hey, are you okay?" And I was happy to hear that, but also like, "So you can't come back?" No. And I'm like, "Can I have any help with this surgery?" Like, unfortunately not. And I'm like, "Great." Let's just like rack up these credit card bills in, because I did need the surgery. And it was one of those things that physical therapy wasn't fixing at this point. I gotten all the injections, I gotten all that stuff done. It just didn't help. But after the third one, I'm like, "All right, you know what? This is not cool." I ended up having 3 microdiscectomies and laminimenectomies or something like that. Synonym. Uh, it's like saying cinnamon. And then one multi-level spinal fusion. Okay. The multi-level spinal fusion was my decision to get rid of like all this back stuff that I'd gotten. My wife had finally like gotten the job that she wanted, and she got all the benefits, and I was there for it. But it was literally 1 month after we opened our doors at Create Cooking School. We had made the decision to open or I should say, my wife and I had made the decision to open up our own business about or after the second back surgery. The third back surgery was during a part-time job that I was doing while I was building out the business plan and the whole idea behind Korea Cooking School. And when I met Diego Coconati, who's my business partner, uh, he said he wanted in. We shared our ideas. We had the meeting of the minds. That's not us. That's not me and Diego. That's the wives. Those are the meetings of the minds. And we're just like, should we do them, honey? And they're like, yes, you can. I'm like, okay, fantastic. We'll go for it. So uh, Diego's another chef who had like grinded his way in the industry, and 20 plus years in the industry has nothing to show for it. No 401k, no savings. You know, he never made more than 50 grand a year. And he's a very, very talented man. And same thing here. I got like 18 years in the industry with nothing to show for it. Now, I do have something to show for it though now. I have my own business that I'm super, super proud of. And I can't, thank all the people that I've helped along the way. But Diego said to me, he's like, what are we going to do differently as owners? And that's where we came and that's what we started with. Why are we opening up our business? Is it to work for ourselves, be our own bosses, make our own hours? Absolutely, of course. But we wanted to offer to our guests in the terms of employees is a great work life balance, great hourly wage, and eventually healthcare and benefits and things like that. And that's what we're working on. So, you know, we I can honestly say that if you contact any of the chefs that have worked with us, whether it be full time, part time, any of the stewards that have worked with us, any of the bartenders that work with us, they can all give you a positive look on what we were able to offer, um, and that we offered a really great space to work at. And we took that, asked for help, you know, uh, and put that in the business plan. Meaning, like, if I don't know how to do certain something or how to get past a certain something, whether it be professionally or personally, I need to reach out to the people in our circles. And everyone's got a circle, and everyone's capable of helping out someone in one way or another. And it's actually made life a lot simpler to know that humans are, we travel in packs for a reason. We are a community based uh, types of beings. I mean, look at John's screen there. you know, that's a community right there. They have takeaway food. They're sharing stories. They're sharing ideas. They're all helping each other right now just by being in each other's company. And we do the same time. We do the same thing every day that we're at work. People have hard times, hard days. We all have our own stories, our own happenings, and it's okay to emote. It's okay to have things go wrong at home. I mean, that it affects you at work. How do we change that as an industry? How do we say, you know what, why don't you take a personal day? It will be paid. Just go get it handled. Because with that type of mentality, that turnover rate goes down quite a bit because guess what? We have your back, you have ours at that point. And I am blessed to know everybody that I've met, and to know that I have their number. If I needed anything, I could reach out, and I hope that they know that if they need anything, they could reach out to me too. And it has happened a few times, whether it be professional advice, financial advice, personal advice. Hey, let's go take a walk in a park. Sure, let's go do it. Let's go grab a coffee. Let's catch up. All these things are very important to the psyche, I think, of everybody in the industry to say, hey, let's not necessarily go out for a beer after a shift and just rag on everybody that came in, but why don't we meet up tomorrow morning and go for a walk or go grab a coffee or, let's go play video games, whatever it may be, just something else other than the normal routine that a lot of people in the industry get into, which is have a hard shift, have a hard night, wake up having a hard morning. Let's just make it easier on everybody and say, hey, I'm done with work. We'll see you tomorrow. Let me know if you want to go grab lunch. Great. Let me know if you want to go grab breakfast. Fantastic. You'll be here tomorrow. No, it's my day off. Well, enjoy it. What are you going to do? Nothing. That's awesome. But maybe you should go hiking, whatever it may be. I think we need to move pivot more into that kind of direction where we're all looking out for each other as a community, much like John's screen here, where he has just a looks like I'm jealous actually. I'm actually hungry is what I am, but that's what I'm looking at over there. But no, and to go from dumb young chef who thought he was a hot shot to be knocked down, and then to keep myself down with I was doing quite a bit of drinking. I didn't want to delve too much in that because I know a lot of people struggle with different types of addiction. But I was able to kind of just like fight through after the help that I had gotten. And I don't do, I'm not sober or anything, but I do have like a sense of self control now. But it's all because of the people that have helped me throughout the years, and knowing that they'll always be there. And then, I did meet my wife through the industry. She was one of the servers while I was a chef, and well, that's a whole nother story. So, but I wouldn't be here without her as well, Mackenzie. And that's it.